As someone who creates instruction, I've found 5 ways that ChatGPT helps make me more efficient and more effective in my designing, developing, and delivering online instruction. So join me and I'll show you my 5 methods, and they just might be 5 methods that could help you as well. Method or tip 1, organizing jumbled content. So imagine this particular scenario. You are tasked with creating a course and you get all this content from all these different subject matter experts. So let's say I'm doing a presentation on the metaverse. So I get some content from one expert that says, oh, here's the present state of the metaverse, and another expert gives me a PowerPoint slide on augmented reality and the metaverse. And I get even more decks of information. Now, how do I, first of all, get this all into one neat, organized element so that I can look at it, examine it, and figure out what's what? So one of the ways that I do that with ChatGPT is I'll go into a PowerPoint slide and I'll go File and I'll go Export, and I'll export as a handout. And I'll click on Create Handouts. It gives me a list of choices. I'm going to go to Outline Only. I'm going to click on OK, and that's going to give me a lot of content from the deck. And then once it opens up in Word, I'm going to select, and I'm going to select all of it. So select all, and then I'm going to Control-C, copy, and then I'm going to go and find ChatGPT, and I'm going to paste this into ChatGPT. So there it is. But that's not all that I have to do. I have this other presentation that I have to look at. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to find the other presentation. So I don't need this one anymore. I'll just close that. And here's my other presentation. I'm going to do the same thing. File, I'm going to export, I'm going to create the handouts, click on Create Handouts. I'm going to go down to Outline Only. I'm going to click on OK. And then what that's going to do is give me all of this content that I'll select all. I'm going to copy, Control-C, then I'm going to find ChatGPT and I'm going to paste it in. And you could do this for all of the slides, decks, any kind of information that you get. Then when you hit this particular symbol, send message, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, I think you're trying to consolidate this stuff. And it says it right there. It's, as we look, it says, it seems like you're provided a comprehensive set of notes and topics related to the metaverse, its current state, augmented reality. I'll provide a summary and address the key points that you've mentioned. And if you look here, it gives me the key points of the metaverse overview, comes down here and tells me challenges in development. It gives me augmented reality and the metaverse. It gives me tips. So it's taken all this disparate information and combined it into one easy and simple place that I can look at it, check it out, and see if it meets my needs. So this saves me a lot of time when I get information from a lot of different subject matter experts who are like, hey, Carl, can you put all this together in a comprehensive course? We want to get input from all these different subject matter experts. Geez, before that used to be hours of studying all the information, all the content, and bringing it together. Here, in a matter of minutes, I copy, I paste it, and I've got this information that I can use in the future. And now that I have all of this great information, there's one more thing I can do. So I can actually go here into the clipboard and I can copy that. That little check mark lets me know it's copied. I can go now to my Word document and I can paste it. And now I've got all this great information in one place. All the information that ChatGPT consolidated, I can put back into Word, I can save it, I can send it to my subject matter experts and see if they agree on my consolidation, my/ChatGPT's consolidation of the information. The second way that I use ChatGPT to help make me a better designer of instruction is doing something that's always not that much fun, writing objectives. So if I have to write objectives for a course or for a class or for an e-learning module, I simply ask ChatGPT to help me out with writing the objectives. Let me show you what I mean. So here's tip number 2, using ChatGPT to write objectives. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that writing objectives should come from the performance objective, tied to what we want the learner to do, and make sure it's behaviorally focused. I know all that. But sometimes, just sometimes, we get content and the subject matter expert or the company or the people we're consulting with says, hey, I want you to make this into a course. Yeah, but what are the objectives? Well, you figure out the objectives. Or, hey, here's a bunch of slides, here's a bunch of content, you need to figure out an objective. Or I'm like, what could be objective? I want you to teach leadership. What could be a good objective for that, right? So those are the times when ChatGPT comes in handy. And let me show you how I use it to create really effective, what I think are effective objectives. And obviously I have to modify these sometimes or use my own judgment or make sure that they match what the employee or the student or the person needs to do on the job. So it's not perfect, and I wouldn't recommend it every time, but it can be helpful when you're stuck and you've got to come up with some objectives. Let me show you how I do it. Okay, let's see how this works. So maybe I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll say write leadership objectives. Okay, and then I'll click enter, and it says certainly, and it gives me some leadership objectives. Now, one of the things that you'll notice about this is that these leadership objectives are not in the ABCD format, right? They're great objectives and provide me great information, but it says, conflict resolution, address conflicts and disagreements constructively and promptly, but audience, condition, behavior, and degree not working. So I might say, please write the above in ABCD objective format. And what will happen is ChatGPT will go through and actually provide me, sure, I can provide leadership objectives in ABCD format, action, benefit, context, and deadline. Not what I wanted, right? So I want audience, behavior, condition, and degree. So I might say, write above objectives using audience, behavior, condition, and degree. And degree. Maybe I'll say as an instructional designer. And I probably should have started my other prompt that way. But now notice what happens. It will go ahead and say, okay, here are them, audience, behavior, condition, degree. Here's the audience, new and experienced leaders aiming to enhance their leadership skills. Will develop a clear and inspiring vision for the team's organization's future, outlining goals and objectives, collaborate with key stakeholders within the first quarter, and by the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year. So it's providing me with the ABCD format, which is a really great way for me to come up with quick objectives. Now I can, again, the nice thing is I can copy this into Word and I can then manipulate these objectives to be exactly what I want. I can even say, use these objectives, but focus on communication of leadership. Communication and leadership. Let's say within leadership. I go ahead and I click on that. It goes ahead and generates for me as I scroll down. Here we are. Here's my prompt. Certainly, leadership-focused objectives, audience, leaders, manage, improve communication. So now I can narrow it that way as well. So the idea is it can generate initial objectives. As we saw before, it could take objectives from other content and put them in. So we have their metaverse. We can say write learning objectives as an instructional designer using ABCD format for the top 3 subjects above. And I hit enter, and now it's going to go ahead and give me these objective attitudes, condition, attitude. Understand that. Let's stop. Attitude. Okay, I really want behavior, right? So it didn't quite do it. So you got to be careful with ChatGPT. So I'm going to say ABCD format, audience, behavior. So you got to be sometimes specific, condition, and degree. Now write objectives for above information, right? And so now it's going to use the instructional design format. So again, ChatGPT isn't perfect, and we don't expect it to be perfect, but it will provide us with a really good jumping off point of taking content that we already had, then from a bunch of subject matter experts, and then generating broad objectives and then generating specific objectives using the ABCD format with, a little prompting from us. Tip number 3 is for the dreaded writing multiple choice questions. Now, the one thing that I dread most about writing multiple choice questions, and most people do, is coming up with feasible, realistic distractors. And ChatGPT comes to the rescue by providing some really great ideas that you might be able to use for distractors and some ways that you can modify or play with it to help you rev up your creative juices. So let's see how I do that in ChatGPT. So let's think about creating a distractor. So let's start with one of the really neat things that you can do. You can actually go and grab a document. So I'm going to go grab a document on gamification, and I'm going to ask it then to make some questions related to this particular document. So it's uploading the document, and I can say, create 5 multiple choice questions with the right answers indicated from this document. And I hit enter, and then it's going to go through the document and it's going to give me information. So this is a really good way to use information that you already have. Now, be warned that ChatGPT might actually be training on your data, so don't put in super secret information that you don't want anybody to have or proprietary information, but general information you can go ahead and put in there. So it says, what percentage of people surveyed would be interested in working with a company that offered games to increase productivity, 55%. Maybe that's not the best answer, right? We're not looking at percentages, but maybe something like this. Which type of gamification applies game elements to propel the learner through content without altering the content itself? Structural gamification. So we can actually use our own documents to create multiple choice questions. So that's one good way to do it. Or we could just come in here and say, I'm doing a course on tree cutting. I've been removing trees like crazy at my house. So chainsaw safety. So create 10 multiple choice questions with, choice, let's spell that correctly, choice questions related to chainsaw safety and indicate the right answer and reason for each. Okay, so I've got some information in there. I put in what I want, and I'm going to click it, and it's going to go out there and find information. Now, we need to be careful. We need to check ChatGPT to make sure that the information is correct against our source materials. So we can't blindly use ChatGPT. All AI models do a thing called hallucination. It's gotten better since it's been first released, but it still provides some inaccurate information very confidently. The other thing that it does is several lawyers, and I don't know why this keeps happening. Once it happened, I don't think it should happen again, but lawyers are using AI to cite precedences for cases, and AI is just making it up, right? So be very, very careful about things like that. But here, for example, let's take a look, and this is, how often should you check and adjust the chainsaw tension in your chainsaw? Before each use, once a week, monthly, before each use, right? And then why? And then it can tell me, what's the safest way to refuel a chainsaw? And it gives me information. So the answers may not be exactly what I want, but it gives me a starting point for my distractors. It gives me a place to go that I'm not staring at a blank page. So it can be very effective for giving you a list. And it just also created 10 in a matter of seconds. So I can go through here and I say, I don't like that one about the hard hat before starting it. I don't like that one, but I do like the technique to avoid kickback. That's good. Purpose of the, so you can pick and choose the ones that you like. So it can be very helpful. Now, another thing that I like to do, which might be kind of crazy, but sometimes I'll say, give me 5 silly questions about chainsaw safety, right? And you might be saying, well, Dr. Kopp, that's weird. Why do we want, information about
silly questions, right? Well, it's a good idea to juggle chainsaws to test your hand-eye coordination. No. You can use a chainsaw to trim your hedges if your garden shears are broken. Of course not. But what it does is it might spark some ideas like, this is interesting. I want to make sure that people use the proper tool. So I'm going to create a question about the proper tool. So you could say, create a serious question. Question about using proper tools for the job related to chainsaws. Okay. And so since I've been working with chainsaws and talking about chainsaws, it's going to say, why is it important to use the proper size and type of chainsaw for specific jobs, such as, felling a large tree versus pruning. And so that silly response back up here about chainsaw, makes sense. So it's a technique that I use to kind of spur creativity, get new ideas, and think about how to create really interesting. The other thing you can do is you can say, give me a scenario with a question afterward about chainsaw safety and give right answer. So now it's not only creating just a simple multiple choice question, but here's a little scenario, right? John's a new homeowner. He's had to clear some overgrown trees in his backyard. John is not wearing any PPE and cutting branches above his head. John, he's lucky to be alive, right? What should John have done differently? And it gives you some answers. And then it gives me the correct answer and also gives me the reason, right? So there's lots of things in here. Now, he's not wearing PPE, but he's also cutting branches over his head. That's not supposed to be done either. But it allows us to take the question and make it more scenario-based or story-based. It allows us to very quickly gain lots of ideas. You can say, give me 11 multiple choice chainsaw safety questions. And you know how long it would take to, try to do that from scratch? If you're not a subject matter expert, it can take a long time. But here it gives me a huge list. I'm able to see what works well, what doesn't. I can take them back to the subject matter expert, have them look at them, find out what's there. So it's really a great tool for the dreaded task of creating distractors. You still need to go back and look at them and make sure they're okay, but used properly, this can be really helpful as a person who designs instruction and assessments to see what needs to be done.
So the next way I use ChatGPT to help me kind of brainstorm as an instructional designer is to create a content outline. So I might say create a content outline on, let's say, for example, personal protective equipment, and make it for a one-day workshop. So I'd simply click on that and it gives me the objective, gives me the target audience, and now it starts to create an outline for me. And then I can use this as my own outline and I can change it. So for example, this is going to give me information, the objective, equip participants with comprehensive knowledge, practical skills related to PPE, who's the target audience, introduction to PPE, types of PPE and their application, selecting the right PPE, proper usage, etc. So it allows me to do that. But now I can say, for example, take the above information and let's make it take the above information. Ooh, my typing is not information, and make it a 30-minute online course. And voila, it goes and it creates this information and it tells me how long each element's going to be. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, exactly like that. So it gives me a lot of flexibility. I can even say make the above content into a series of micro learning experiences. And when I hit that, it's going to go ahead and generate micro learning, and it's going to give you the introduction, definition, the experience 2, head to toe protection, experience 3. hand and foot safety, exploring hand and foot. So it gives me these broken up in a micro learning element. So I may like this. I may say, yeah, this is great, fantastic. Or I may say, nah, this isn't really what I want. I'm going to change and modify. But it immediately gives you several different ways of looking at the content. We can also, if we go back to our metaverse, if remember, we did that, we could take this content and we could say, okay, now take these objectives and make a course and make a 1 hour e-learning module outline. Boom. And so certainly here's an outline. So it's 1 hour. It's going to give me the module introduction. It tells me, okay, understanding the metaverse, that's going to be 20 minutes. Here's the learning objective. Here's the content. Now here's section 2, navigating the metaverse landscape. Here's the audience, the learning objectives, the content, closures and developments, all that good stuff. So ChatGPT gives me the ability to very quickly create learning outlines, content outlines based on material I put in previously, based on material that I generated from scratch, for instance, PPE, and it allows you then to look at that content and decide what you want. And even if you have content, as we said before, from different courses on PPE, you can put them all into ChatGPT and create brand new content outlines. So it's a really fast and effective tool for creating quick content outlines. Tip 5 is generating ideas for activities. Oftentimes I'll be stuck like, what should I have the learners do? What kind of activity works well? Do I want to do another drag and drop? Right? I want to come up with ideas for really interesting activities. And ChatGPT lets me do just that. Let's take a look at some examples. So let's talk about how we can create activities. Let's ask ChatGPT, how to create an activity or for some activity ideas. So please generate ideas for online activities related to personal protective equipment. And it's going to take a moment, and it's going to give me virtual workshops, interactive PPE quiz, a PPE fashion show. That's kind of interesting. I didn't think of that. PPE DIY tutorial, somebody kind of showing themselves, an art contest, maybe not. Donation drive, where individuals purchase PPE items online and have them directly sent to organizations. That's not really the activity I was looking for. Let's go and change it a little bit. Take the above prompt and provide me with online learning activities that can be done with the computer, let's say. That can be done with a computer. All right, let's see what they come up with here. So PPE infographics was before, but here we add the prompt and they have a virtual workshop, they have the quiz, they have the same kind of information. So in this case, ChatGPT is not giving me a lot of different things, right? But maybe I can say, give me an interactive exercise, activity. Let's call it activity. So if you don't get what you want, sometimes changing words can help. Actually, I use activity, so let's use exercise. That can help a person learn about the proper donning of PPE. Oh, and I might have spelled donning wrong. There we go. It has 2 N's. And I'm going to say personal protective equipment. And let's see what comes up with that. All right, here it goes. And we can see here as we scroll down, interactive PPE donning simulation. So now we have an interactive simulation. It's going to guide the participants step by step through the process of donning PPE. Here's an introduction, what's happening, guidance, decision points, feedback, correction, practice, and repetition. So that's pretty good. Let's see, can you develop a similar exercise, but not the same, based on this information? Let's call it the above information. And let's see what we can get out of that. So here's the dawning challenge to engage participants in fun and competitive exercise that reinforces introduction to scenarios, virtual challenge platform, PPE selection, finding the right thing. They can make it time-based. You can have decision points. And can you turn dawning PPE, personal protect, as described above, into a card game? All right, let's see what they can do with that. Okay, ChatGPT, show me what you've got here. So the PPE Pro Defender card game, right? To correctly don different pieces of PPE and complete scenarios. So you have a card deck, custom designed or printed. You have a scenario guide. You create a deck of cards, each represent a different item, gloves, gowns, mask. You design each card to include an illustration of the item, so that makes sense. Then you have a scenario guide, prepare a guide, describes different situations and environment that you have to put on PPE. And how you play the game. Well, you have this introduction, you deal the cards, you shuffle the deck, deal a set of cards to each player. Each player draws a scenario. Then you get the dawning challenge where you've got to get the scenario and figure out what PPE items go on there. There's going to be a timer, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. You're going to score points based on the correctness and accuracy of your choices. Once you complete the scenario, you have a chance to see the reveal of the correct PPE choices and discuss the importance of each. And then you have the winning state. And with most card games, I find discussion and reflection is very important. And here they even give me variations like team play or advanced scenarios. So you can see you can generate a lot of really good ideas about what kind of activities you want to present to learners. And even, my favorite, of course, is create a game based on the subject matter that you're describing. So this is a really great way to generate ideas and concepts for your design of instruction based on using ChatGPT's powers. So as I close out the video, I just want to give you a warning about ChatGPT. There have been instances, especially a very famous one about a lawyer who used ChatGPT and the citations that it created weren't real. And he got into a lot of trouble for that. There's also reports that the accuracy of ChatGPT actually is going down over time. So it's up to you as the instructional designer to heed these warnings and to make sure that you provide the accuracy for the content. That's your job. It's not anyone else's. It's your job to make sure that content is accurate. So make sure the content is accurate, but use ChatGPT for these 5 areas to find some really interesting motivational aspects as you explore and use ChatGPT.